We know the Jewish people, the Jewish nation began around 3,500 years ago. And at the same time the Jewish nation began, the Chinese nation began. And the Chinese nation today, 3,500 years later, have around 1.4 billion people. And the Jews, 3,500 years later, have around 15 million people. Now, the big question is, what happened to all these Jews? At least, if not billions, there should be hundreds of millions of Jews. Why is there such a little amount of Jews? And the Chinese have this is with the restriction on birth, and the Jews are an ancient nation, and we have a mitzvah to have a lot of kids. So ancient nation with high birth rate equals high numbers. But we see that there's such a small amount of Jews. So some people are going to say pogroms and Holocaust, and that for sure took a toll on the numbers of amount of Jews in the world. But at the same time, the Chinese people also they had their leader, I think his name is Mao, killed 40 million people. And another proof that we know it's not just because of that is because 80 years ago after the Holocaust, there hasn't been pogroms for 80 years. And the entire world population tripled. The Jewish people still stayed at 15 million. We should at least be 45 million. Around the Holocaust there was like 12, 14 million Jews, but we still stayed the same. So there's obviously something else going on here. And there's only one answer to this question of where did all these Jews go? The answer is something called intermarriage. Intermarriage and assimilation. So I want to define what intermarriage is. Intermarriage is obviously, everyone knows, when a Jew marries a non-Jew. And assimilation is when a Jew who has his Jewish culture and his values, his Shabbat, his kosher, whatever, and he absorbs into non-Jewish society and drops his Jewish culture and adopts non-Jewish culture. So some statistics in regards to intermarriage and assimilation. So we know that the statistics say that about 75% of Jews are marrying non-Jews. So if I have 10,000 Jews, around 7,500 are marrying non-Jews. And in regards to assimilation, the Pew Research Center says that about so we have 6 million Jews in America, 1.6 million Jews identify themselves as Christians. And another statistic, crazy statistic, 40% of practicing non-Asian Buddhists in America are Jewish. And even to take it a step further, 20% of American Jews describe themselves as having no religion at all. At least the other people had some kind of spirituality. These people don't associate with anything. And the Gedolei Israel, the big rabbis, call this a spiritual Holocaust. It's not a physical Holocaust, a spiritual Holocaust. That because of that, hundreds of millions of Jewish neshamot couldn't come into the world. And the big question is, why are these Jews assimilating? Why are they intermarrying? And again, it's a very simple answer. Something called, one word, ignorance. What do I mean ignorance? In other words, lack of Torah education. They don't know what it means to be Jewish. And I want to bring a proof for what I'm saying right here. If you see this chart here, given to me by Richard Horowitz, he made this chart, put a lot of big investment based off the, I think, Pew Research, whatever. You see, I know it's hard for you guys to see, it's a little bit too small from here, but you see, you have secular Jews, Reform, Conservative, Modern Orthodox, and then Yeshivish Orthodox. And then the more up you go, the more to the right you go, the lower the intermarriage. The more to the left you go, the higher the intermarriage. Secular Jews have about, after 4 generations, 85%, and Yeshivish have 0%. So there's a big difference between all these categories. The more you go to the right is the more Torah knowledge and the more Torah observance. The more you go to the left is less Torah knowledge, less Torah observance. So that answers the question as to why Jews are intermarrying, because of ignorance. Again, they don't know what it means to be Jewish. And I want to explain to you a Jew who doesn't know what it means to be Jewish, what it's compared to. Imagine a guy he went to 7-Eleven and he got the lottery ticket for $1 billion. And he doesn't know he has the winning numbers, but he keeps it in his back pocket and he forgets about it. A week later, the news announces he got $1 billion lottery ticket, that he won the lottery. But he doesn't watch the news. You know, he's religious, doesn't watch the news. I'm just kidding. So, so what happened? So now he goes his entire life and he doesn't know he has a winning lottery ticket worth $1 billion in his back pocket. And he goes day after day after day after day. And the guy's not so rich, and he's struggling financially, and he has a lot of stuff that the money could do him a lot of good. And now he goes and he leaves this world, and he never tapped into it. Now, a Jew, if you have this lottery ticket, even though you have the $1 billion lottery ticket in your back pocket, are you rich or are you poor? Answer is, yeah, you have it in your pocket, but if you don't know it's there, it's like you don't have it at all. So this guy's technically poor, even though he has it in his pocket. He goes day after day. Now to take this a step further. Imagine this guy, he's 80 years old, and eventually he goes in his back pocket, he sees he has the $1 billion ticket. He finds out he has it. How do you think he's going to feel that after 80 years, after all the suffering, all the hardship, he couldn't afford so many things, he struggled so much, wasted so much time working so hard. And how do you think he's going to feel when he's 80 years old and he sees he has a winning lottery ticket and he couldn't use it and he's about to die tomorrow? Horrible, devastated. Now take it a step further. Imagine this guy, his best friend knew that he had the winning lottery ticket from the beginning, 80 years before. And his friend didn't say anything, not because his friend hates him or anything. His friend just thought like, okay, what's the big deal? Who cares? It's a lottery ticket. But he never told him it. And every day they saw each other, they hung out, for hours and hours, Shabbat tables, whatever, they're always with each other. And now this guy's 80 years old, he finds out he has a lottery ticket, and he also finds out that his best friend knew he had the ticket his entire life and never said anything to him. How do you think this guy's gonna feel now? Even more devastated. At least before, okay, it was his fault, he didn't check his pocket. But his best friend, he's gonna tell his best friend, you knew me, you hung out with me every single day, and you never told me what's going on. You never told me I had this ticket. You know how much I was suffering, how much I went through, and you didn't tell me anything? What is this? I gave the mashal. What's the nimshal? The nimshal is that, think about it. We, for example, Pico Robertson, one of the biggest Jewish communities, Baruch Hashem, so much Torah, so many kosher restaurants, so many rabbis. It's unbelievable what's going on. And just a few blocks away, and I'm just going to give this for example, Beverly High, there's kids there who don't know how to say Shema Yisrael. There's kids there who don't know anything, barely know anything about Judaism. And it's not, if the guy lived in Russia, okay, he lives in another country, you'll never know, he never knows his entire life he's Jewish. But the guy lives right next to the biggest Jewish community, the secular guy, and his entire life he meets with them every day, he hangs out with them, he goes to the house for Shabbat. And these secular Jews, after 120 years, they're going to come to us and say, why didn't you say anything to me? You knew what the purpose of life, you knew what the truth was. You knew that the Torah life is a better life, and to connect to God, and you have a mission. You knew all this stuff. You never told me. How could you? And Hashem's going to tell me you missed the purpose, and it's going to be all on us. And not only is this secular Jew going to be upset at his religious friend or cousin, whatever, but Hashem is going to be upset. Hashem is going to say, you lived in a spiritual mansion, in spiritual wealth. You had so much spirituality, and your friend lived in spiritual poverty, and you didn't say anything to him. You left him alone. You don't care. You never cared about him to say anything. We are sometimes so blind to helping our own brother, and because why? We're so focused on ourselves. We're focused on our own lives, our own olam haba, whatever it is, that we forget it's a dishonor to Hashem, a big dishonor, that his kids are far away from him, and that we're not worried about him. We're not worried about his honor. We're not worried about his kids. It's a huge dishonor. And as I said before, the Jewish people are being led astray, and it's a chilul Hashem of historic proportions. And these Jews were so ignorant that the non-Jews and their culture won them over without even a fight. And again, it's our fault. We left our brothers to perish at the front door. So those of us who truly care about Hashem, and whoever cares about Hashem's honor, will realize how serious this is. So what is the solution? I hope every single one of us, everybody who listens, whatever it is, we're all the solution to this answer. Why? Because the whole topic of tonight, Kiruv, Jewish outreach, is a responsibility. Not only is it a responsibility, it's an obligation. Just like 19 out of the 613 mitzvot correspond to this mitzvah of Kiruv and Jewish outreach. And not only that, just like you're obligated to eat matzah, keep Shabbat, keep kosher, and all the other mitzvot, you're obligated to do Kiruv. It's not like, the rabbi. No, we're obligated by Hashem. Why? Because the Torah tells us, Kol Yisrael Aravin Zeh Lezeh, which means every Jew is responsible for each other. And the best mashal, everybody probably heard it before, that you have a boat and one person has a hole and he's drilling a hole in his room and he says, oh, it's my room. But no, you go down, you bring everybody down with you. The Jewish people are on one unit. So if one Jew goes down, everyone goes down also. With that being said, we have to remember one very important thing, that Kiruv is not just for, people think, Kiruv is just for the rabbis or for Kiruv professionals from Aish. No, that's not true. You have to make yourself into a Kiruv professional and get out there. And not only that, rabbis also, unfortunately, it's not their fault, but they have a disadvantage. And I've seen this so many times. They have beard, they dress black and white, and a lot of people, secular people, are brainwashed. Rabbis, mullah, whatever, all this stuff from Iran, whatever it is, wherever it's from. And they're scared of rabbis. But imagine you're this guy's cousin. He's not scared of you. You're this guy's friend. You hang out with him every day. He's not scared of you. So we can't rely on the few Kiruv rabbis and Kiruv professionals to save everybody. It's not enough manpower. So there's one solution. We have to tap into the great reservoir of those who understand the necessity of Kiruv. Who am I talking about? People who on a daily basis interact with secular Jews. And I'm talking about the frum Jews, the religious Jews. And Rav Noach Weinberg says that he calls this, we have to wake up the sleeping giant. The religious Orthodox world is the sleeping giant. We have to wake them up. Now the Chafetz Chaim says in Chomat Hadat, he says, and I'm going to read it word for word what he says. When the fire of apicorsis, heresy, atheism, all this stuff, you know what's going on, the non-Jewish culture, is spreading throughout the land, when the flames of ignorance are consuming our brothers and sisters, when there are so many Jews who know so little and know nothing at all, then the obligation to teach falls upon anyone who knows anything. And to take this a step forward, the Lubavitcher Rebbe says that you don't have to be a rabbi to do Kiruv. He says if you know just the letter Aleph, teach Aleph. How come he didn't say if you know the entire Aleph bet? There's 22 letters. No, he said even if you know one single letter, teach it. So that shows you don't have to be a big rabbi or anybody, Rav Noach Weinberg, any other Kiruv professional and big rabbi to do Kiruv. And now to take this a step forward, another important idea in this topic. The Chavot Halavavot says, and I'm going to paraphrase this. He says, imagine a guy reaches the highest spiritual level in this world. He learns every day, puts with his tefillin on. He reaches the highest levels of loving God, fearing God. He finishes Shas, Mishnayot, Bet Yosef, whatever, Shulchan Aruch, everything. He knows he's the perfect human being in his mitzvot, everything. He says this, and basically he reached the level of prophets. And the Kuzari says the prophet is the highest human being. So Ruach HaKodesh. If he reaches the highest level, his reward is not going to be equal to the reward of a person who does Kiruv, who brings Jews back, who brings them on the right path. And the Zohar takes us a step further in Parsha Truma. The Zohar says that if people would know how much benefit and reward they would get in this world and the next world for doing Kiruv, Mezakei Rabin, bringing Jews back, they would run after this mitzvah every single day, that for their entire life, just trying to look for people, give books, whatever, send shurim, do whatever they can, if they knew the value of this mitzvah. And I want to just tell you how this mitzvah is really the ultimate residual income. So for example, let's say I give a book, this Kiruv book, to a person, and now this person reads the book and he becomes religious, or you sponsor someone to go to yeshiva, or whatever mitzvah it is. And now this guy, or you bring him to a shir, now this guy, he becomes religious, and then his wife, and then he marries, and then he has religious kids, and they have so many, as you see here, after 4 generations, they're going to have, Orthodox Jews will have 3,000 descendants. That's what the chart shows. So he's going to have thousands and thousands of descendants, and maybe this guy might be the next rabbi or whatever Kiruv professional, and he's going to do Kiruv. Now think of that. You get one person to keep Shabbat, keep kosher, that's okay, one guy does it, but imagine you get 10,000 people. Now every week, every day, 15,000 tefillins, 15,000 Shabbats every week. Every time, it's not one person eating matzah now in Pesach. It's you convinced 15,000, now 15,000. It all goes to whose account? To the person who started the ripple effect, the person who gave the book, or the person who sponsored the guy to yeshiva. So these people, again, these people could be generating billions of mitzvot for you. And again, this is truly the ultimate residual income. There's no other mitzvah that could take a person so far. So now, I want to explain the real reason why people are not religious. You have to understand that most secular Jews we see today, they're not rejecting Judaism because they really have anything against it. And non-observant Jews are captives to the upbringings, prisoners to the powerful and enticing society around them. And they're not potential Bali Teshuvah. People think, I have to make this guy a Baal Teshuvah. No, you don't. This guy he's not a Baal Teshuvah. Baal Teshuvah is someone who was religious and then went off. Most of the time, these people just never knew from the beginning what it is. So all we have to do is one thing. We just have to teach them what it means to be Jewish, to tell them who we really are, the privilege of being a Jew, the special mission of the Jewish people, and all that. And another very important fact, that you have to remember that these Jews you see, these secular Jews, they are ma'aminim, b'nei ma'aminim. They're believers, son of believers. What does that mean? These are the children of Avram, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Regardless of how they're raised, don't be fooled. It's all deep down there. And I'm telling you, you've seen it with some people, you think they're off, you'll never come back. No, it's all deep down there. And think about it. All these people, their great-great ancestors went through the Romans, went through the Babylonians, the Persians, Korach and his rebellion, that's before. They went through the Reform movement, the Conservative movement, whatever, I'm saying it out of order. Their ancestors fought and beat all these people. That's why they're here today. Now think about it. That's when it was at force. They were being forced to convert to the other religions. Now in America, no one's forcing anyone to do anything. They're giving up their religion freely. So imagine how their grandparents would feel of how much they sacrifice for their kids to be Jewish, and the kids give it up like that. So another important point, that there are no such thing as coincidences. Don't be afraid to say hello or engage in a social conversation with a secular Jew. You never know. The guy you meet on an airplane, the guy you meet on a bus, the guy you meet at work, whatever it is, in a waiting room, business meeting, it could be, or a college class. Hashem put you in that classroom, put you in that location at that time to help this guy out. And what do we think? We think if we don't reach this Jew, someone else will come along and figure out how to get him. But this may never happen. God sends a limited number of spiritual opportunities in every person's life. And your chance meeting with this person could be his last chance of coming to the truth. And it's basically you or nothing. It's you or nobody. No one's going to come for him. So if you realize that you're this guy's last chance of coming to the truth and connecting to Hashem, which is the greatest thing ever, then you're going to find a way to be effective. You're going to do whatever you can to get to this guy, and you're going to go out of your comfort zone. You're going to do whatever you can. Now, also, we have to understand another very important topic. Kiruv is not just for, people think if I do Kiruv, I have to go to secular people in the street and find people. No, that's not what it is. You don't have to be Reb Meir Schuster and go tap on people in the kotel and bring them to Esha Torah. No, Kiruv is not just for secular people. I mean, it is for secular people. I mean, Kiruv is not just for random people. Kiruv is for your parents, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, your aunts, your uncles, your close friends, neighbors, co-workers. They all could benefit from you teaching them Torah and bringing them closer. And again, it could be that's why Hashem put you in that family or made you friends with that person, whatever it is. And I just want to say another important point. People think Kiruv is hard. Kiruv, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's not as hard as people think it is. And you have to understand that deep down, all these secular Jews, they're dying for someone to come talk to them and bring them closer and stuff like that. So now, with all that being said, I want to finish it off. What are you guys, whoever's listening, whatever it is, on camera, Zoom, what are you guys doing for the Jewish people? What are you doing? Hashem is looking for soldiers. Who's going to fight the battle against intermarriage and assimilation? Who really cares about Hashem? If you really care about Hashem, you're gonna join this war and fight and bring Hashem's kids back to Him. And I want to tell you, the number one powerful tool for Kiruv, you can get the guy to keep Shabbat, keep kosher, that's great. And that leads to a lot of stuff. But I'll tell you the number one most powerful tool is learning Torah. Hashem says, my kids want to go away from me, they don't care about me, fine, go away. But bring my Torah. At least take the Torah with you. Why? Because the light of the Torah will bring them back. So just to give a couple ideas of Kiruv and how it could be done. Bringing people to Shiurim as tonight. You bring people to Shiurim, send them videos, invite them for Shabbat, learn with them one-on-one. And one thing I really want to promote is this book right here. One I heard from some of the biggest rabbis in Kiruv that this is probably one of the best Kiruv books on the market. It's called The Indisputable Truth. It brings compelling evidence for the existence of God, divinity of Torah, proving that man couldn't have made the Torah, and talks about the purpose of life. The book that will shake the Jewish world. And a couple topics. And I actually brought, someone donated over 100 copies of these books. And we're going to give them out. I'm going to leave them probably at the entrance, so before people leave. And please, by the way, if you take books, don't just just don't let them go on the bookshelf and collect dust. Actually give them to people. If you're going to take, and give it to people, then take as much as you want. But if you're just going to keep it on the bookshelf, please, it's someone else's master money. So now I want to just talk about some of the topics in this book. The book covers the existence of God, refutes major world religions, proof of Judaism, oral Torah, rabbinical laws, purpose of life, secrets of success and happiness, Mashiach, life after death, why bad things happen to good people, what does it mean to be Jew, intermarriage, assimilation, age of universe, evolution, Kiruv, free will, everything. Think of any Kiruv topic. It's written in this book in a short manner, in a concise manner, very easy, that the most religious rabbi could understand it, and the most secular Jew will be comfortable reading this book. And you can learn it one-on-one, Devar Torahs, whatever it is. Give speeches off of this book. And yeah, so that's with that. And I'm going to leave the books to the side. And how much, do we have time? Okay. And if we had extra time, I want to just say two more important points. Obviously, I'm not saying to go debate atheists and go out there and go do that kind of stuff. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying people you already know, people you already see on a daily basis. If you can, take the book to them, or any other method you have of talking to people. And not only that, this book is not just for other people, it's for yourself. Pirkei Avot says you have to know what to answer a heretic, what to answer Apikoros. What does that mean? There's two explanations for that Mishnah. Number one, sometimes your Yetzer Hara tries telling you, this is all fake, rabbis made it up, blah, 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 all this stuff. If you learn this book, you'll never have those questions again in your life. And not only that, a lot of people I know, they go to the Pesach Seder. A lot of people told me they're at the Pesach Seder and they get bashed on by their secular cousins and all this stuff. They say, you guys believe this, the splitting of the sea and the Jews were in Egypt, it's Alaki, whatever. If you just read this book, there's a whole section on Exodus of Egypt, and you knew the proofs, you'd be like a machine gun, boom, 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 all this stuff. And no, again, not to debate or anything, but just so you have something, because when they debate you and you don't want to answer, it affects your Judaism. And another very important point, imagine you want to build a building, 30-story building, and you build floors and floors and floors and floors. If you don't have a strong foundation, the more floors you build, the more likely it's going to collapse. How do we connect this with Judaism? You could build the floor of Mishnah, Gemara, Tanakh, whatever, highest Kabbalah, you reach the highest levels. But if you never had down the basic mitzvah, the 6 Chams of mitzvah, the 13 principles of faith, the knowledge of God's existence, Torah, all this stuff, guess what? The more you add, the harder it's going to get, because the foundation is not strong. That's why it's so important, not just to learn it for other people and become the Kiruv professional, but know it for yourself. And Hashem says, when you teach other people Torah, when you learn this stuff to teach, you're going to remember it better than if you were just to learn it for yourself. So, and then one final story, and just because you always have to give a story when it comes to this kind of stuff. I just want to tell you the power of the ripple effect. So, a few years ago, when I was like, 16, 17, I was in SMC, and Hashem, for whatever reason, Hashem made me go to SMC. And I met I met a guy there that he went to middle school with me, whatever. We were taking like this music class, and we started becoming friends. We started talking to each other, whatever. And eventually became like really good friends. And this is when I was also learning more and stuff about it. And I went to one speech from my cousin. His name is Ethan. A lot of the speech, by the way, it's credit to him. He gave a speech about all this topic I told you, that the importance of Kiruv. And that got me really inspired to say, wow, maybe that's why Hashem brought me there, whatever. And I became friends with this guy. Not because I want to do Kiruv, but we just became friends. But when you grow and you know the truth, you don't want to just keep it to yourself. You want to share it with others. So slowly, talking to him, becoming more and more, learning, bringing him to Shiurim. And now this guy became Shomer Shabbat, Shomer Kasher, and all that. But he had a big issue. His whole family wasn't Shomer Shabbat. And they drove on Shabbat, and they ate non-kosher, went non-kosher restaurants. And imagine how difficult the test is when your entire family doesn't keep it, and you really want to keep it. And you want to do it. And I had to tell the guy, come sleep at my house for Shabbat, don't go, just stay, don't get in the car, whatever, stuff like that, It was a long time ago. And, and what happened? Eventually I said, it's not going to work like this. It's not going to be sustained enough if your parents are fighting against you. So I told him, it wasn't this book, but it was one CD by Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi, the Torah and Science CD. I don't know, a lot of you guys have seen that. I told him, give this to your dad. Let's see what happens. Tell him to play it in the car. His dad drives a couple hours a day, play it in the car, whatever. He gave the CD to his dad. Now let's fast forward 2 years. His dad learns every week at a kollel. His whole family Shomer Shabbat. They're doing Kiruv on their whole mishpacha, whatever, at the Shabbat tables. He knows all these topics. The son, he went to Yeshiva Or Sameach. The whole family, why? Because of one action. Because Ethan, the ripple effect. One thing from Ethan that got to me, that got to him, and eventually. So think of that. If you give this book to somebody, whatever book or CD, whatever it is, or you talk to somebody, you'll never imagine the effects. And after 100 years, Hashem's going to show you how many people you brought closer. So, B'ezrat Hashem, everybody take this, what I said to heart, because this is an important topic that applies to everybody. And thank you for listening.